We talked, of course, at length going into this World Cup about what happened, boys, regarding Lopetegui, Hierro coming in. How much of a difference does that make to what we saw today? How much you lay the blame at Lopetegui's door, at the Spanish FA's door?
The way that Lopetegui went about, I've got no problem with the Spanish FA because the way Lopetegui signed a contract without informing them, 2 or 3 days before the World Cup is bang out of order, and he should be gone, to be very honest. And I've got no problem with that. And the team would have invariably picked itself. It was just the style of play and the way they couldn't change it from style A to style B. As Ali said, Asensio wide or Lucas Vazquez, somebody play wide who can take a man on to try and unlock the defence to go round the outside. Asensio played today and cut inside every single time onto his left foot. Lucas Vazquez didn't play today, but has played and has played poorly. To have Koke and Busquets on, Busquets is one of the best sitting midfielders that we've got and that we've ever seen. Yeah, he played further forward because Koke was there. It's like against Russia, you don't need to do that because you're going to dominate possession. You've got 2 defensive midfielders and the 2 centre defenders behind you who are more than capable of bringing the ball out in defence and committing midfielders. So whoever was picking the team, or whether Fernando Hierro was under pressure from certain quarters to choose people, I just thought his decision-making today was really bad. You'd have Iniesta playing in this game all day long, regardless of the criticism that he's received, because he's much better than the other midfielders they've got.
That being said, who they had on the field was still more than enough to win this game. They didn't apply themselves properly. They played the game as if they thought it was just going to happen. We'll have 60-70% possession, and eventually it will happen, and we'll break them down. And you could clearly see Russia were playing for one thing, and one thing only. It was evident from about an hour onwards. But you've got to move the ball quicker. You've got to have more drive. And they had to okay, you can talk about Iniesta not playing, which we have, and you can talk about Carvajal and the rest of them. But that Spain side, if it played to its full potential at pace, would have won that game.
They haven't played to the full potential at pace. The warning signs with Morocco, they got the late goal by Aspas, and they did exactly the same. They were 2-1 down, and they went side to side to side, and there was no penetration at all. And again, they get a cross, and the Aspas goal goes in off a quick corner eventually. But it wasn't, this great goal that they scored. It's a bit like Germany. The warning signs have been there all along. And sometimes you must just think, whether it's arrogance, we've done it before, we'll just click into gear, it'll be fine this next game. And they've come really unstuck, and they'll get criticised heavily for it, because this was one of the worst performances I've seen for a while, forgetting possession nonsense stats and passing ability.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. They'll be out for you.
Yeah, to your point, Spain, 4 matches in this World Cup, 3 draws. Right? Yeah. And it's not like they play the highest quality of competition, right? And the game that they did win was against Iran on a knee bash goal by Diego Costa. That was an accidental goal. That's the sort of level that we've seen from Spain. And so we thought that they would be better, but maybe they're not. Maybe this is the version of Spain, and until they don't sort out what is it that Diego Costa does for this team, or whoever plays up front for this team, then you're not going to go anywhere, because you have no other options. You don't know any other options, and you haven't implemented any other options as part of your style. You said that this is your style. At some point, you have to adjust during the match, and that is something that Spain does very poorly.
And maybe it's the end of their cycle. Yeah. We've had it with Germany. We're certainly going to have it with Argentina, aren't we? It's the end of a lot of their big players, and it's certainly going to be the end of a lot of the good players from Spain now, because it just looked it's just looked as if they just had enough now.
Well, they've got most of these players are having a winter break.
That's obviously Sid, I imagine it's all going to unravel more over the next few days regarding the Spanish media and the coverage of what happened at the start of the tournament regarding Lopetegui and the Spanish FA. But how much blame can be put to the door of that situation from what we saw today?
Well, of course, that's what begins all of this. That's the conditioning factor. And actually, Fernando Hierro post-game, who, bear in mind that when he comes in, he talks immediately about, right, this is a difficult situation, very tough, but we're going to walk through it and we're going to come out the other side. And then he even said at the very start, I'm not going to change very much. We're just going to kind of calm this down and move on. Today, he went back to it. And today he said, look, I took over 3 days before the Portugal game, 3 days before our World Cup started. And I think what he was doing was reminding people that if not necessarily the way they played as such, but the conditioning factors around this were very, very significant indeed. And I think that will be revisited. And I think in a way it's natural to, isn't it? I mean, it's very difficult to look at this World Cup with Spain and not go back to the fact that, well, look, 2 days before they started, they didn't have a manager. The next day they had a manager who, by the way, less than 48 hours earlier had said, I have no intention of ever managing the Spanish national team. 48 hours later, he's there in charge. You've got a whole load of players who then think, well, we've got a manager who is taking on a structure, a style, a set of players that he hasn't chosen and trying to get the best out of them. And I think that creates a series of conditions, a series of factors that mean it's very, very difficult to play at your best. But it's worth pointing something out here. Those last 2 friendlies that Spain played, while Lopetegui was still there before the World Cup, they were also pretty terrible. And a lot of the things that we've seen, a lot of the flaws we've seen during this tournament, we saw then too. So maybe there was a bit of continuity, and actually in a way what needed to be done was to arrest that, to stop that, to prevent that continuity happening, because Spain didn't play well in those 2 friendlies either.
Having said all that, Sid, this is a massive surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, 100%. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. When Spain were, and I think they were, incredibly fortunate to come out of that Morocco game, not just going through, but going through in first place. And I don't want to get into the whole debate about what's the easier side of the draw or not. So I'm just going to make the assumption that they went into what was theoretically the easier side of the draw. At that point, I thought, this is what they need. They go into that half of the draw. They kind of get the chance to start again, if you like. They've got lots of great players. It's Russia who, yes, they're at home. Yes, they've got all their fans there, but it's Russia. A Russia side who don't really genuinely believe they can beat Spain. And at that point, yeah, it's a huge surprise. And then the other element to this surprise, of course, is the really obvious one. Spain scored first. Once that happened, this result should never have been in any doubt whatsoever.